Yeah. Jack, short for Hugh Willis.
Okay.
Don't ask me how the hell that works, but
Interesting. All right. Cool. Very cool. Oh, those Russians. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. We are going to talk about Jack Russell, not the Jack Russell Terrier. Creepy Dave, are we rolling? We are rolling. All right. Welcome, everyone. This is the Tell Me a Story podcast. I am, of course, Catchy Old Tom, here with my best friend in the world, Sean McCarthy, the doctor of history. He sacrificed so much to be here today. He did. Years of his life, thousands and thousands of dollars, years of his life just to be here to present this today. And yeah, it's a good one. It's episode number, what did I say?
14.
14. All right.
And if you're liking these episodes, like, comment, subscribe, share these episodes with people that, exactly.
Anybody who's into this sort of thing, don't be shy. Of
course.
Come on. I don't care where you are around the world. Yes, of course, we are in Canada on the East Coast, New Brunswick, a tiny province, and we're in a small city as well, the Miramichi area. But we do talk about topics from all around the world, which you're going to find out here in just a moment. So yeah, it doesn't matter where you're at. We think you'll have some fun if you listen to us. So we're going to talk about a fella named Jack Russell from our area, correct?
Yeah, well, originally born in Utah, but his parents were from Gagetown, so not very far from Fredericton, the capital of our province. But relocated back here after having participated in some pretty big events.
He sure has. History. Now, I got to ask, is Utah any Mormon connection there? Or is that,
not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of? Okay. So, yeah, born in Utah, makes his way, because that's pretty far away, makes his way back here to the east coast of Canada, to little old New Brunswick. And, yeah, he's part of a lot of stuff, isn't he? So what's the time period for this?
So, I think he's born in the 1880s, I want to say. But yeah, I think so. And then eventually joins the Merchant Marine in the United States. So moves to California.
Wow.
And kind of takes ship and kind of travels through the Pacific. And he actually survives and drives an ambulance during the 1906 San Francisco earthquake.
Okay, that's interesting to know.
Yeah.
Driving ambulances at that time. Okay, so he's down there in California. You know, just adventurous guy, it seems like already, if you make it that far around this continent. But yeah, that's not enough for him, is it? He's going to make his way over to the old world.
He is. Yeah. Actually, apparently driving that ambulance got him really jazzed up on cars. And so he decided
cars are pretty new at this time, aren't they?
They are, absolutely. Yeah, 1906 for sure. So he goes to work he ends up with Studebaker, but he worked for Ford and he worked for one of the other companies too, but I can't remember quite which one it was. But he and through that he eventually travels to South America, and then from South America goes to Spain. From Spain he goes to Scandinavia, and from Scandinavia he ends up in Russia.
Wow. All right, so let's try to get this timeline together. From South America to Spain, what year are we dealing at here?
So we're probably, at this point, in the, I don't know quite right off. Let's say the early kind of 1910s.
Yes.
At around that time.
Okay.
Because he's in Scandinavia, I think, at the start of the First World War, and by 1916, he's in Russia.
All right. Very interesting. When you say Scandinavia, to know which one?
Apparently, he was kind of like the representative for, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway.
Okay, so he's hopping around.
Yeah, he's kind of like the man on the ground, kind of looking after the sales rep.
That's pretty cool. What do we know the car company at this point? Or
Studebaker.
Studebaker.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Studebaker was a big deal at one time. I remember my father cutting wood back the Barnaby area. Okay. And there was an old rusted out truck. He showed me one. I was like, that's a Studebaker. And that didn't mean anything to me. But apparently at one time it was a brand unto its own, if I'm correct. Yeah. So,
and obviously did pretty well because it's got representatives all over the world.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. And, Europe's got some great cars. today. And we are open for sponsorship. Yeah, Volvo, BMW, we don't care. If you want to be a part of this, I'm sure you do. I am sure you do. We will say anything I will at least. I gotta stop saying we, don't I? I got us in so much trouble. I almost destroyed this company by saying we so many times. But I will say anything. I will say anything. I don't care what your beliefs are. If you are a car company and the checkbook is in your hand, you have no idea what I will say on camera to fund this project. But
So Jack Russell.
so back to Jack Russell. Anyway, if we can jump to Scandinavia again, I know they're very proud of their automobiles. Volvo, of course, and Saab as well is another one that I heard a lot about. Through my father-in-law. I don't know if he's watching or not, but yeah, he's a big car guy. And
he had a very impressive car that I remember at your wedding.
Drove to our wedding. Yeah. A man of few words, but proud of his car.
Yeah.
And so old Jack Russell is making his way around Scandinavia promoting Studebaker. Might be an uphill battle. I don't know what the national pride there was for those Scandinavian car companies at the time, but they do like their American stuff too, because that was a Buick we were in with my father-in-law. Right. So they love their American cars over there, actually.
There you go.
I know they have a real fondness for, I don't know if that came later or not, but that like 50s, 60s time period. So yeah, maybe he was onto something. Old Jack Russell when he headed over there. So things are good. He's doing what I did best, just chilling out in Scandinavia, probably hanging out with some hot Swedish girls. And so
he is single at this time.
He's
so
single
you never
at
know.
this time. So God knows what happened. But we'd love to hear, if you have rumors or hearsay or anything, please, for the love of God, comment in the comment section. Private message me.
Stories you've just made up.
Stories you just made up. We don't give a damn at this point. Yeah, tell us anything. I'll say it. And I'll work into my own personal life. Anyway, so we're going to jump ahead. The man's going to go to a very interesting place, a place that I have been reading up on a lot. And it's a city in a country that's fascinated me for a long time. It is St. Petersburg.
Yes.
In Mother Russia.
Yeah. So at that time, of course, St. Petersburg feels a little bit too German. So they're calling it Petrograd after the Russian, Peter City. So,
Can you paint a picture of that? Because I know it's kind of like it's Russia today. And if there are any Russians watching this, please jump in the comments. We don't care what language you write in. Just put that gibberish in. We can't read it anyway. We don't care what you say about us. And
give with one hand and take back with the other.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be drinking Russian Standard right now. I don't give a damn. But hey, our government doesn't want us to have that. So we do have Moosehead, which we... if you're watching this in St. John...
Exactly.
We are drinking, the beer from the oldest independent brewery in Canada, and we do love Canada, unless, of course, you are a Russian watching this. If you are one of the bears behind the keyboard, as I've heard about, Russian Standard was good from what I remember. So,
Moosehead or any other major St. John business happens to be watching and looking for...
Or a Moscow business, I'm just saying. I don't care. Who knows? Everything's going to hell. Nothing matters. So, anyway, just like everything was going to hell back in Jack Russell's time.
It was.
It sure as hell was. Let's paint a picture. St. Petersburg, as we know today, is part of Russia. So, as you were saying, it's more Germanic at this time, is it? It's
they feel like St. Petersburg is too, like the name is too German. Kind of like what the House of Saxe-Coburg was in England, right?
Yes, Berg means mountain in German. I know that much. Yeah.
So
I think Swedish too. God, I can't remember anymore. But
So just like King George is saying, okay, we're going to get rid of this German name. We'll put in a good English name. The Tsar in Russia is saying we're going to get rid of this, German name. We're going to put in a good Russian name, and now we're in Petrograd. Yeah.
All right. So he's in Petrograd. So he's still selling cars?
He is. Yeah. He's still a rep there. But it seems from his from the book that he wrote. Kind of his memoirs in a way. Apparently, he's also enjoying a lot of high culture while he's there because he's going to the ballet.
That's
the Russian Imperial Ballet.
Isn't that weird? When you think about Russians, you think about what? You think about brutal warfare and hockey and ballet. That's such a weird combination, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know for me at least.
Yeah, sure.
And ballet is always number 3. And why ballet is such a thing. Do you have any idea why that is? It just seems
I'm
so.
not entirely sure.
Yeah.
But it was a long-standing
Russian
tradition.
ballet is a
Yeah.
long-standing
Yeah.
tradition. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have no idea why that is. I need to balance it all out. But anyway, so he's doing real good. He's going to the ballet.
Yeah.
And does he hook up with a ballerina or not? Is that true?
He does.
Fuck
not,
yeah.
Not at that one necessarily.
And ballerinas are amazing. They can pull off something called a bending blowjob. If
Okay.
you haven't experienced it, you're missing out. Okay.
Well,
Back to what we were saying.
Consider me missed out.
I'm just saying, the bridging blowjob is pretty amazing.
So he sees. We're almost got a demonstration there, folks.
Exactly. These are already paid for.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. I think any bridging at our age, though, is probably going to be detrimental and probably.
It's going to be. And I don't have EI, so there you go.
That's it, exactly. That's it. Yes. So he's at the ballet. He sees Tamara Karsavina, who is like the premier ballerina of the Russian Imperial Ballet. She gives a show. He's so moved. He's moved to tears. She also is moved to tears, apparently.
Oh, God.
So is the Tsar, who is also in attendance. Everybody's crying.
Lots crying.
Everybody's
drunk on drugs, for sure.
Could very well be. I mean, as you say, this is not a great time for the Russian Empire.
It's really not. Yeah. They know the end is near.
Yeah, that's it. But later on, Jack Russell will marry this premier ballerina's good friend, so they're. Though he didn't know it at the time, apparently he was going to be very close to this lady through a friend that she had. So who is Jill? I guess is her name, and I think she's from. Accounts kind of vary. I've read where she was from England, and then I've also read where she was from Russia. So,
all right, cool.
But yeah, like I say, the time is getting nigh.
Yeah.
The Romanovs are at the end of their 300 years in power. The revolution's coming, and Jack Russell's going to be there as an eyewitness to it.
Oh my God! And that's the thing. I'm a fan of the Russian royalty. I really am. I'm almost a Russian royalist. I will cash in my Monarchist League, Russian Monarchist League, maybe.
Oh, there you
no,
go.
I'm a fan. Yeah, they were in power for a very long time against absolute monarchy too. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, they are an absolute monarchy.
So
no
it's
question.
the same family from. Is it Ivan the Terrible? In what year is that?
So just after Ivan the Terrible.
Okay.
So Ivan the Terrible, I think, is the last or one of the last rulers of the Rurik Rurik dynasty.
Okay.
And so, of course, Ivan, famously unstable.
Yes.
In a single, manic episode, ends his entire line by beating his daughter-in-law to the point where she miscarries.
Yes.
And then when his son comes to figure out what the hell just happened, beats his son to death with an iron bar.
Cuts an elephant apart too, if I'm correct. Yeah, can't even leave the elephant in charge.
Yeah. So and then basically realizes, I've just sort of.
It's over.
Yeah, exactly. So then Russia enters what they refer to as the time of troubles. Which
that's a troubling time. Let me tell you, it's only going to get worse.
Exactly. So famous. Another famous understatement there.
Yeah,
things are really terrible until eventually, in 1613, pardon me, Mikhail Romanov becomes Mikhail the First.
Yes,
and begins the Romanov dynasty.
The Romanov dynasty.
Yeah. So for 300 years, the Romanovs are in power. In Russia.
Okay. Yeah. And so that's a long dynasty. That's Peter the Great and Catherine the Great and all the names we know from that time period. And royalty is such a weird thing because you get some very great leaders and you get some very terrible leaders. It's the thing I find. These absolute monarchies,
And the Russians seem to kind of go very great leader, very terrible leader, very in close succession.
Yeah,
you don't get too many middle of the road leaders.
No middle of the road. It's all black and white. I do respect that. Anyway, so we're going to fast forward to the terrible leaders, who I believe, because I am no fan of communism whatsoever. So we're going to jump ahead to the revolution, and these fucking dogs, Lenin and Trotsky, who I have no respect for, are the guys who come into power. it's in the middle of World War One, isn't it? The Bolsheviks start,
the end of World War One for the
the
Russians.
end of World War One
Yeah.
for the Russians. Yeah.
That's it.
It's World War One still going on for the rest of us. Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah.
Of course, they won out, and of course, again, I mean, Russia has not been doing well in that particular conflict
No.
for some time, and of course, famously, their troops are underfed, underarmed, underclothed.
And that would all get worse under Lenin and Trotsky, trust me.
Sure.
The starvation would only get worse.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And of course, the fighting would only get worse. They were not. Of course, civil war descends upon Russia as well. So it is during these tumultuous years of 1917, because of course there are two revolutions. There's one in the spring and then one in the fall. That first one sees the Tsar out, and then the second one topples the provisional government and brings the Bolsheviks in. And so it's during this time that Jack Russell decides, I'm going to get the hell out of here.
Get the hell out of this place. Yeah, it's all going to shit.
Because
and they take his money. That's a big thing too.
Yes.
They confiscate or they freeze his assets,
Yes.
don't they?
Yeah. Zip.
Zero money. And that's the worst part about communism. If you have any money in the bank, they're going to take it from you. They're going to take everything you have. They're going to take the food off your table. You know what I mean? They're going to starve the hell out of you. So yeah, Jack Russell finds out the hard way that what he's worked for really hard is going to disappear. You know, these new leaders are going to. So what does he do? He gets on a train.
He does. So he heads east.
Yeah.
And basically tries to get out of Russia by traveling across Siberia.
Oh God!
And and eventually getting to
Siberia, the only place which is colder than Miramichi, New Brunswick, I do believe.
True. I'm sure. Well, I know it is for sure. So it's 3 weeks on the train, traveling across. Of course, again, because Russia,
massive country.
Yes. Yeah. Even with the loss of all of the countries that are going to break away from the Russian Empire, but the Russian Empire is still the largest country in the world. To travel
even today, it's still
true.
Russia is still the biggest country. I remember when the wall came down.
Yes.
I remember watching it. My mom said, "This is a historic event," and I feel like some of our educators, and I use the term very loosely, said Canada's now the largest country in the world, which is complete bullshit. Russia's still much bigger, but they obviously weren't doing. They failed math. Those teachers that we had.
I think they were hoping that Russia itself would eventually
split into a bunch of territories and stuff.
But not to be. So Jack Russell gets a firsthand appreciation for how big Russia is. And he mentions about, as he's traveling, of course, these trains are jam-packed full of people who are trying to get out, much like himself. Other European refugees, other representatives of American companies like him. And, of course, I think, after they have to change trains a couple of different times, and after, I think, the first train or maybe the second train, there is no dining car. So there is no food.
Wow. So no food
on
this thing.
On the train, except for what people have with them. So he's talking about, cheese and bread.
Starvation. Which is
and
pretty damn good considering how things are going to go in that area.
And dirty milk.
Dirty milk.
Which I'm assuming is milk with stuff in it.
Soured milk.
That's it. Well, of course, it could be sour too. I don't know. That's something too that you don't really see. It certainly was something you saw an awful lot more, or in an earlier time, people traveling with food. You don't often see people kind of traveling with.
You really don't. No, it's an older generation that really lived through the hard times. Almost a pack a lunch, and even I know some older crowd. Even my dad, when he would go to the woods, he would pack a massive lunch or something. You know what I mean? It was just hey, something might happen. You know what I mean? We don't prepare for today. So these communist dogs, it was in the back of their mind that they might, cause trouble, or anybody for that matter. Never trust the government. I don't care where you are around the globe, folks. If you're listening to this,
well, I mean, certainly
your life could go down real fast.
The Tsar had not done a really great job provisioning his people by this point either. So I mean, I'm sure it's a case where you're prepared.
You got to be prepared. Whoever's in charge,
that's it. They're not particularly interested in you. And beyond that, it's whatever he can get when the train stops. Just out on the platform, and I'm guessing that's probably a flying trip because you don't want to be on the platform
when the Bolsheviks show up or when the train leaves.
And so he talks a lot about dried eels.
Dried eels.
Yeah, he said he ate so many dried eels.
Really?
Again,
that's weird. Eel pie was actually a thing over here. Have you heard about that? Yeah.
I'm not sure that I have.
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. In New England, especially, and I've heard, loyalist folks, if you're watching, that like eel pie culture kind of came up to here in like the 1700s, and the loyalists made their way up.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Again, sounds disgusting. But
Yeah. I'm guessing there must be like, salted or cured
I
in
think
some way.
And we do have eels around this area. So
Yes.
it feels like, something you could get your hands on and
Yeah.
cook it into a pie.
Yeah. I guess, just inexpensive and easy to come by.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
they're drying them out and they're selling them off.
Yeah.
So again, traveling and doesn't really kind of see actual food on the train until they get to China. So when they cross out of Russia and into China,
And it was chicken balls. The best chicken balls he ever tasted in his life, correct?
actually, it was steak.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hey, there
Yeah.
you go, China. This is it, Who's the guy in China right now? I can't remember. The Winnie the Pooh looking fucker. What's his name? Creepy Dave, help us out. What's the president of China's name? President of China.
Xi Jinping.
That guy.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want to, it's not going to happen. But, I will say you don't look like Winnie the Pooh if you fucking sponsor this podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's keep going. He actually got good food in China, which is surprising.
He got there was a chef on board that train taking them through China, and from there he eventually got over to Japan.
Okay.
Was able to get a boat and over to Japan to Yokohama.
Wow, what a roundabout way to go. God.
And still, not a penny to his name at this point.
No, just full on bartering. And it's amazing he made it that far. He didn't try to literally eat him alive, but I guess that's going to come later. With this,
well,
this regime is brutal.
true.
Like, I have no respect for Trotsky and Lenin, and I've gone down, many, many rabbit holes. When I prepare for like the darkest horror I could imagine or something, I don't read Stephen King. Stephen King is like Robert Munch compared to reading,
of
the
course.
Russian history from
There's
that time
some
period.
really terrible things that go on.
It is the most horrible
Yeah.
stuff you can possibly imagine, and a light doesn't get shined on it. That's the problem. Like all our studies, it's always Hitler. No one ever talks about the stuff that happened under Lenin and Trotsky and those fucking assholes, because it's and the only thing that I like is that Trotsky gets his head split open in Mexico. You know that, don't you?
Yes, that's true.
By one of Stalin's boys, who is, I'm no fan of Stalin either, even though I do, get referred to, get compared to Stalin sometimes. And and again, it's this intellectual, class that and that's the scariest thing. Like with communism, it feels like it's okay to walk around with, the hammer and sickle, you know what I mean, on a badge as you walk to your fucking low-paying job at Starbucks. And it's okay, to have this shit. And that doesn't get frowned upon whatsoever when these complete degenerate assholes that they were, Lenin and Trotsky, brought nothing but pain and misery to so many people. We're talking about, we always hear about the 6 million people that were killed under Hitler, but what about the 66 million that were killed, under Lenin? It's crazy. And these, like I said, these assholes. I'm sorry if anybody's offended by profanity, but it's too late in the podcast for that. These are some of the worst people. Like, I don't know if there's hell or not. I pray to God there's a hell. So these fucking assholes are getting torn apart, day after day, hour after hour for what they did to so many people, because they, it's brutal. You know what I mean? How they crushed the Russian Orthodox religion. It was just, these Orthodox priests who just, were going about their own, and they treated them like they were the establishment, like they were czars. Like every one of them was like billionaires. But no, these were, just, even if they had like a little bit of, reputation or establishment or money or whatever you want to say, they were treated horribly. We're talking about, the altars in those Orthodox churches were defecated upon. These priests were, crucified so many times. And literally like forced to take communion instead of like the wine. They make them drink like hot lead and things like that. It's just the most depraved crap you can possibly imagine. So I'm glad. Yes, I'll go on the record. I'm so glad Trotsky got his head split open at least. So that felt like a little bit fair. His brains, which he didn't have, got splattered all over the walls in some shithole in Mexico. And in Lenin, it still sucks that he's on display to this day, isn't it?
It's true.
Yeah, that's the thing. This fucking asshole who, didn't allow so many people to not have a proper burial is still out there. So yeah, get him out of there. Burn him up. Do something. If there's any organ left in him that's worth anything, sell it on the black market. You know, I don't care what the fuck you do. Sell it to someone. Sell it to Creepy Dave. He'll put it in a jar on his desk. You know what I mean? He's that kind of guy. Anyway, that's my rant about these communist assholes because I have no use for any of them. Yeah.
Again, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Russia is going to enter into, a new dark age for sure.
It's so dark. Yeah.
From civil war to famine to,
it just gets so bad. And I don't like Stalin either, but I do like the idea that after, did you hear this one where Lenin takes a bunch of strokes and stuff and he's like in a wheelchair and stuff, and like Stalin is left looking after him?
Yeah.
So could you imagine like a worse nurse in the world? Like Nurse Ratchet? Fuck that. Nurse Stalin. That's the guy. And that's how Stalin got the power. Apparently, was, because Lenin didn't like Stalin. And then it was like, yeah, you listen, you asshole, you're going to put me in charge type thing. You know what I mean? And he would beg for like cyanide pills and stuff. And Stalin would just kind of knock him around a little bit,
Yeah, and Stalin was able to kind of, manipulate himself as his position as general secretary. So he was in charge of membership. So he knew every member of the Communist Party.
That's
so
it. And none of these assholes had any friends whatsoever. They stab each other in the back whenever chance they get.
Sure,
and people said, because this whole idea about the state being above everything. And the state means nothing. I don't care where you are in the globe. These lines in the sand are made up and drawn wherever, for the love of God. Make friends with your neighbors and your community and your family and shut the fuck up. The state, this, cheap flag that you have in whatever country you're in doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? And choose your friends and neighbors very wisely because,
Absolutely.
Like I said, it's worse. It's the darkest shit I ever read in my life. Really.
And as you say, I mean, that system was certainly, there was a lot of that, where it's trying to break down those community relationships, right?
It's totally the thing. Yeah. It's breaking. Like I read about the starvation and stuff at that time. It's like the good people died first. You know what I mean? The food ran out. The people that wouldn't steal died first. And then the people, that gave food away to the people, they died. The people that wouldn't eat human flesh, they died. So you're left with these animals that were just out, to brutally kill and murder you and stuff. And like you have no idea. They were like, people are hiding like bits of grain like this behind a picture on the wall and stuff.
Okay.
And the Bolsheviks would go in. They kill your pets. They kill your dogs and cats and stuff so that, if you had any source of meat left over, they didn't want you to have that. Yeah, it's the worst shit I ever read. And it's not taught in school. That's the thing. I don't know, did you learn about it, Doctor of History?
I did, but it wasn't until I got to university.
That's the thing. You have to get to university level, and then you probably have to like search for it or something. And it's probably glossed over too, because hey, they were fighting on our side in World War II. How about that?
And I think too, of course, like the Russian state was very protective of all of those things.
Oh
right?
yeah,
they wouldn't let anybody in to look at all that stuff for
they're very good at hiding shit.
Quite a long time.
Yeah.
But Jack Russell was able to escape. That
didn't happen to Jack Russell, thankfully.
True.
He made her up. He made up the Southwest spies.
He did. He got back. And as somebody that had seen this up close when I was speaking tour throughout the United States, telling what he had seen, but I guess pushed himself a little bit too hard because at some point he basically collapsed on stage in the middle of a show.
Yeah. I read about that. I'm just thinking, like, after what that guy's been through, it makes sense.
Sure. So is basically told by his doctor, hey, relax, take some time off the road, whatever, marry a ballerina.
Things get better after that.
That's it. There you go.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. And he decides to move back to New Brunswick, which is where his parents originally were from. And so decided that he would go up the Southwest because, that's
has to be.
Exactly. And decides to start a hunting and fishing camp up there and lives there with his wife and starts an outfitting business and tries to relax that way.
Nice. Yeah. And that outfit, that seems like such a nice end to it. Is that what he does?
Sure.
He like sets up the outfitting business.
He does.
Yeah. And just, because that's, shout out to anybody watching from the Southwest. That's the place to go for like fishing and just,
of course. Yeah.
Yeah. To enjoy Miramichi nature. It's a beautiful area. So I want to get that in there.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And if you like the Dungarvan Whooper, come see us.
Indeed. So a samovar that he brought back from Russia is currently at the Central New Brunswick Wisdom Museum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So again, at that time, of course, in Russia, the samovar was kind of the centerpiece, at I guess I don't know if it would be the peasant household. Maybe it was, but when you're having tea, it's brewed inside of
Yeah.
that. So
Okay.
yeah, so he had one and he brought it back and it's on display there.
Interesting.
And yeah, he does pretty well for himself. There's a picture of him among a bunch of other guides and outfitters in the 1920s, and we'll get Dave to put that up. And again, really sort of finds the piece that maybe he didn't have for all those years he was bouncing around all over
bouncing
everywhere.
Around, yeah. Yeah, no, that's really cool. A guy from this little area that covered like so much land, like from Utah all the way down to South America, all the way over to Europe, and like Europe's so massive and like we say so fractured, especially at this time. You know what I mean? But,
no question.
But I can just picture being like in St. Petersburg, which is a city which I would like to visit someday. I don't know if that's ever going to happen or not, but we used to joke about it for my bachelor party.
We did.
We would go to St. Petersburg, but no, but we made it to Prague.
We did.
Yeah. And
quite a time it was.
It was a great time. We'll talk about Prague sometime down the road. But yeah, I just picture that journey all through across Siberia to get to, Japan. It's so freaking long. Yeah.
I guess maybe there's consolation in kind of doing it with a group of people.
Yeah, I guess so.
You're not alone, man. At least,
Yeah.
There's a sense of
that are in this together type
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, it's great to hear somebody that like from here that made it through that crazy time in like history, which I just talked about, which you should all, read up on because it's completely insane. Some of the worst, time in human history, in my opinion.
Yeah. Not to. I'm sure Sir Anthony Beaver doesn't need me to recommend his books for him, but
Never heard of the guy.
Yeah, just lately, I read his book on Russia, the Revolution, and the Civil War. It's very good. And
you're a fan?
He does a lot of good work in terms of kind of talking about individual episodes rather than just sort of talking about like big, kind of events.
Yeah,
he roots it in like this happened here, and these are the people that are involved.
Yeah,
so it really does kind of put a human face on the whole thing.
That might be kind of the route I went down because I was just looking for like personal stories and stuff, and it was all these eyewitness accounts of these horrible like farming towns in like Ukraine and Russia. You know what I mean? It was just the hell those poor people went through was something we can't even comprehend, and something that doesn't get a light shined on it, which it should.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
But yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, Jack Russell's story, I guess, kind of has a tragic end. Unfortunately, he's in an automobile accident at the age of 80. And
he's old
passes
at
away.
least. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's back in California again. And yeah, unfortunately, he dies as a result of an automobile accident.
And Khrushchev was driving the car.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's it. But yeah, certainly, like I say, I mean, by the standards of that time, I mean, a good long life. And obviously one that was... Yeah, I think, he obviously was able to enjoy himself, for a number of years and enjoy himself here in the Miramichi.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. So, yeah. No, fun story, Sean. Thanks for finding it out. Like I said, just that diving into these world politics at a time that was just, insane. No other word to describe it. Yeah.
No question.
So this local guy survived it all and came back here to good old Southwest Miramichi.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And again, not to be kind of a homer, but it really does kind of show that there's not too many things and places that the Miramichi kind of hasn't touched in one way or another.
Yeah,
we're
going to dive into that more and more. You know what I mean? And if you're watching this anywhere around the globe, including Moscow, if you want to learn more about Miramichi, this is the podcast to subscribe to. If you're allowed, or if you're not, go on the dark web. It's worth dying for. And anyway, we're going to talk about our good friend here. Creepy Dave, the guy who does fantastic artwork. He's the guy who illustrated this picture. David Jardine. Wake up, David! Wake up! Anyway, David Jardine, our man behind the camera, the spider in your brain. He is a great artist. And check out his stuff, David Jardine, on YouTube and Instagram.
Yes, you'll find the link in the description below. Now, of course, as we mentioned before, like, comment, subscribe, share this with your friends.
All those, ring the bell.
And
the bell is your friend.
If you find yourself on the Miramichi, on the Southwest, the Northwest, upriver, downriver, or this summer, look us up. We're going to be
Yes.
doing a lot of events. Character Matters, Miramachi, going to be involved in quite a few things. The Headless Nun Tour, the Dungarvan Hooper Tour. If you listened to those episodes earlier in our run, if you haven't, go back and do that. Both of those events are going to be happening all through this summer. We've got events on Middle Island. So if you're really interested in our Who's More Irish episode, you can certainly find out a little bit more about Irish history here in the Miramichi at that. Tom, of course, does a great rendition of Captain John Mountaigne. All kinds of events throughout the summer, and where you can see us leading up to a big commemoration for the Great Miramichi Fire this October.
All right. Great job, Sean. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for the story. Appreciate it. All right. Cheers, everybody. Have
you
a good
next
night.
week.
Bye-bye.